Church of the Larger Fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. The COVID-19 pandemic has irrevocably shaped how connections are formed in congregations across the United States and the world. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is committed to being a resource within Unitarian Universalism and beyond. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine Quest to our online community hub and our letter writing ministry. We have found ways to build connection and community, even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison. The CLF supports the ministries of those who hold target identities: Blue, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, Trust, Transgender Religious UU Professionals Together, and Drum, Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, just to name a few. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed, even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The VUU. The VUU is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Greetings, beloved, and welcome to episode 421 here in season 10 of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, aka the VUU or the VUU. It is good to be with you. Today we have bubbling on the stove the occasional potluck that is the host special. Chris has left Aisha and DC and I unsupervised for the day, and we've got
talk about a strategic error.
We've got things to talk about. I'm the Reverend Dr. Michael Tino, 1/3 of the lead ministry team at the Church of the Larger Fellowship, the Unitarian Universalist congregation without borders or walls that brings you this sometimes fascinating talk show. And I'm joining you from Peekskill, New York, the land of the Kitchewan and Wappinger peoples, about 40 miles north of New York City on the Hudson River. And it is spring here. I am dressed like a hyacinth because the hyacinths in my yard, as if on cue, are blooming to celebrate Nowruz, the Persian New Year, which happens at the vernal equinox, and it's spring and it's cold again, right? It was warm and beautiful, and now it's cold and beautiful, and but the trees are not yet trying to kill me, and I will accept that as a win, because in a week or two I'm not going to be able to say that anymore. DC Fortune, how are you?
I am well. I was getting a little grumpy when you were talking about it being spring and beautiful, and I'm like, have you been outside? It's like 12.
Yeah, it's sunny. It's sunny, and the flowers are not dead. So
Right. It's sunny. It is sunny. And I've actually begun to see forsythias start here where I am, which is really sort of cool. Forsythias are weird flowers. I'm here in central Pennsylvania, the historic homeland of the Susquehannock people. And forsythias are happening sort of in the north corner of a yard where it's sort of sheltered from sun, sheltered from wind and stuff, right? The sunshine is there. Um, and like those are starting. The rest of them are still like, yeah, no, it's too early for this stuff. We're not, no. And just, I forgot, somebody mentioned last week that it helps if we do descriptions. So I am a middle-aged, fat, white, balding, transgender man wearing glasses and a shirt that would be like salmon, maybe is what you'd call that. And I have thinning gray hair. That is getting thinner by the moment. I'm a little grumpy about that, but
the joys of testosterone, DC.
Testosterone and time. I could complain about getting old, but the alternative's not great, so I'll take it. Aisha, honey, rescue me from this, please. How are you?
Hello. I'm Aisha Hauser, and I am the second third of the lead ministry team of the Church of the Larger Fellowship. My pronouns are she and her. I live in Seattle, Washington, land of the Coast Salish people, and I am wearing a keffiyeh. I'm a 53-year-old woman, light brown skin, black hair that has specks of gray. It's kind of salt and pepper depending on how you see it. And I do wear glasses for the computer. And it is really sunny right now in Seattle. And the way the sun comes in my home right now, for whoever's watching this on YouTube, and not just for those who are listening, the sun is coming in weirdly on my face and I'm self-conscious about it, but hopefully it's not distracting, but it's fun to have this much bright sun in Seattle. We have the hyacinths are out, the forsythias, the daffodils. It's definitely spring here, and it is chilly today. It was very warm over the weekend, like 70s, and people were super excited and happy. And now we're back to it's still pretty good, like 50s and 60s. It's not 12, so I'm super happy about that. And I love our host shows. I love all our shows. And this one, I think they're all enriching and fun. And I'm hoping we could start off with TikTok, the TikTok ban, because I am an avid TikTok user. So the United States is not happy that I think the number I've heard is 170 million people in the United States alone are on TikTok. There are people who have changed careers and become full-time content creators. One person who's a realtor said, I have made $1 million through the business I got from TikTok alone. And the government, US government, has demonstrated quite clearly that when they want to fucking do something, they could do it in days. They could do it bipartisan. They could do it. And they didn't get together to ban guns, semi-automatic weapons when kindergartners, nope, they didn't do that. They didn't, get together to provide healthcare in a way that actually provides healthcare. No, you know what they came after? The organizing tool known as TikTok. Yes, TikTok has a lot of issues, absolutely. But the one and only reason the world has taken up the cause of the Palestinian people is TikTok. So it is not an accident that as soon as the oppressed, the people who then started connecting dots about colonialism and violent extractive capitalism, then suddenly, and thankfully they were slow to get there because, most of Congress is very, very elderly. And I love the elderly. I'm not wanting to be ageist. What I'm saying is, I'm not wanting to be ageist. The reality is they were slow to understand social media. Somebody called Facebook the DMV of social media. So, but TikTok is not that. I know. Is that hilarious? I thought that was the funniest shit. Anyway, so I just wanted to open that up because the ban is going to happen. What Congress is trying to do is to bully China. ByteDancer, I think, is the company to sell TikTok. And China's like, are you fucking kidding me right now? So for a little while, people had the delusion that, oh, they're just gonna buy it and ruin it. I'm like, China's like, we're not fucking selling TikTok. So that's
Well,
my
and it's,
TikTok.
it's I don't even know. It passed the House like 300 and something to 80 or something, right? And it is actually, it's uncertain whether it can pass the Senate, but if it passed the House 300 and something to 80, like probably it would pass the Senate. It's just that that it has to get past Chuck Schumer to get on the Senate agenda. And Chuck Schumer, the majority leader of the Senate and my senior senator here in New York, and the highest ranking Jewish elected official in the country, has all of a sudden decided that he is going to try and use his political weight to stop the genocide happening in Gaza, which is like, it's about time someone did. And if if the subtext is that that political organizing is happening on TikTok, he might not put the bill up for a vote, because his position is safe. He's like the safest politician in the world. He will be reelected next time he's up for reelection in New York with 70% of the vote.
He's one of those guys that'll be elected after he's dead. They'll still vote for him.
Yeah, New Yorkers don't like to vote for dead people, but up until that point, yeah.
I don't know. I think New Yorkers are cantankerous enough that if they really don't like somebody, they'd totally vote for the dead guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Just to poke him in the eye,
I think what's interesting, I was shocked that Schumer came out and said that Netanyahu needs to lose his job. I mean, that was huge.
That was big.
It was big to come from Schumer. And I think Schumer is savvy enough to understand the damage of getting rid of, I mean, they may do it, but I don't think Chuck Schumer cares enough or is alarmed enough by TikTok as much as other people are. Like,
right.
And the thing that what I think the U.S. government, because they're underestimating how like the unintended consequence of getting rid of TikTok and many people's livelihoods is going to shock them. And this is true across the political spectrum. Yep. I mean, who's that crackpot? Margaret Taylor Greene and AOC voted against the ban. Like, how did they get on the same fucking team? Like, again,
oh yeah, I looked at the list of the 85 or whatever it was people who voted no, and there was no rhyme or reason. There was absolutely no rhyme or reason to that.
Well, MTG is because she's looking at that as a way to make money. Right?
When she's not in office, she's going to have to be a TikTok content creator.
Absolutely. That's totally real. And AOC understands it as it's a bad idea when governments ban communication, right? Think of what governments ban social media: China, North Korea, Russia. Like those countries are the ones that ban, public access, ban open access types of communication. And AOC understands the politics of grassroots organizing.
She has an account.
Yeah.
She has an account.
Yeah. And she's funny as hell.
Well, I have long said that the day that I actually post something to TikTok will be the day that the entire medium jumps the shark. But I do have an account, and I do regularly look at things that other people are posting and the conversations that are happening there, and the ways in which you can respond to someone else's post in something of a conversation. Like, sometimes those conversations are not respectful. That's true. But like, I think we're past respectful in public dialogue in the United States these days. So
What? Really? You can't be serious.
One of the more fascinating things that happened since October 7th on TikTok that I was really actually heartened by, at some point, and thankfully it was only a matter of, I would say, a couple of weeks, and then it came and went, but somebody resurfaced the manifesto that Osama bin Laden wrote. And Gen Zers,
wow.
who I think oh yeah, and I will say within 2 weeks it was nipped in the bud. Like, creators came on and they were like, nope, absolutely not. So it was really, because that, makes the left look terrible. I mean, not that we need any more help looking terrible, but no, we don't want to sympathize with with terrorists, and
we don't.
anyway, so so it was I was waiting to see, like, is this gonna, where is this gonna go? But people really because it was also taking away from advocating for Gaza, for the Palestinians,
Right.
and advocating to end the genocide. And so it was a distraction. And really pretty quickly, large creator after large creator shut that shit down. And I was like, this is an interesting thing that could have really and really, that's, I think, what was heartening for me, is enough people with enough influence on that platform didn't want to stray from keep staying focused. And that's where the organizing savvy of folks on TikTok is real, and it's profound. Yes, look, I don't know what the number is. It's got to be over 1 billion people on it. It is remarkable. And even for 170 million Americans to be on it. And if you follow like certain people, it's really amazing and informative. And it is, some of the folks I follow on TikTok, they will never know who I am. And I'm like, oh, I want to see how Imani's doing. Crutches and Spice. She's one of my favorite people to follow. Anyway, so it's been super, super fascinating and heartening. And it is, people have built communities on TikTok. We had a guest who I met on TikTok, Reverend Arik. I'm going to go visit him when I go to the UK. So it builds friendships.
Wow.
So we'll see if it I'm going to be surprised if it gets banned, because I do think somebody will be smart enough to know it's politically a foolish move to do in a fucking election year.
Well,
yeah, and I'm just banking on that person being Chuck Schumer. So
yeah. So the only thing that really sort of does give me cause for concern, sort of back here at the back of my skull, is that the security, the data harvesting that can be done via TikTok is sufficient enough of a risk that if you are a federal employee and have a federal phone, you are not allowed to have TikTok on that phone because of the security questions about it. And I'm like, okay, that, like, you shouldn't have TikTok on your work phone anyway.
You shouldn't. If you're a federal employee with a federal phone, you should probably not have social media apps of any sort. It's not like X.
Unless you are an outreach coordinator and you're doing the social thing, right? And you're like posting to Facebook and posting to whatever Twitter is now, and
listen, at one point, my ex-husband was a federal employee, and at one point when Pokemon Go came out, so many of the people where he worked, which I won't name, downloaded it that they had to send a fucking cease and desist to all. They're like, stop! No one is allowed to have Pokemon Go on your federal phones. The fuck? So the data mining, that was a real thing. What?
Oh, so this is not actually about data mining. It's just about like productivity. All right, never mind then.
Well, here's the thing about data mining. That is a bullshit red herring, because Facebook, Meta, X, they sell our data all over to global multinationals. It's not, none of this. They don't give a fuck about data mining. They just don't want organizing. That's what this is about.
Yeah. If you belong to a social media thing and if you are a member and you are not paying, then you are the product.
Yes. But that's true about Facebook, Instagram, X. Is true about every single one of them.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, and it's one of the
reasons,
I'll give a shameless plug. It's one of the reasons why the Church of the Larger Fellowship is trying to get our social involvement with one another off of Facebook and into a private social media space called Mighty Networks, which we pay for. So
Okay.
we are not the product in that space because we pay for it.
You are the subscriber.
We are the church is the subscriber. The people don't have to pay for it. So community.clfuu.org
Okay.
is our social media space. And we're trying really hard to move there because we don't want our people and our community building to be the product of Meta.
Right.
So it's community.clf what?
clfuu.org.
Okay.
And I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk any more than I trust the Chinese government. I mean, like it's possible I trust Elon Musk less than I trust the Chinese government. I'll have to stew on that for about 30 more seconds before I decide that yes, in fact, I trust Elon Musk less than I trust.
Yeah, the Chinese government is ideologically sound. They're wrong. They're wrong about a bunch of stuff, but they're consistent. This guy is just, whichever way the dollar blows, he'll go.
And he's not very bright. That's the scary. The thing that Elon Musk succeeded in doing in tanking Twitter is, and I love that we're just still, I'm going to is he demonstrated that just because you are a trust fund baby, come from wealth, and have a lot of money does not make, like, he presented himself as like this super brilliant, like what did somebody said, he like Iron Man, I don't know, like Tony Stark, but he is a regular dude who happened to be born into an immensely wealthy family, so he was able to, whatever whim he had, fund.
He buys shit and he ruins
Tesla.
it.
That right. He did not create Tesla. He invested in Tesla. And Twitter was like a game of chicken that he lost. He didn't want to buy Twitter. They had to take him to court. They're like, fuck you. You now said you're going to buy it. The hand to God. He didn't want to change his mind because he fucking knew. They're like, nope. We're calling your bluff, fucker. So.
Oh, man. So, yeah. Well, that cleared up some stuff. Thank you,
So
Aisha.
what are we going to do this year listen, I've already now seen shirts. Anyone else 2024, which was actually, those shirts were around 2020, but here we are. I feel like, what is our responsibility as a faith community? Obviously, we can't tell people who to vote for. Obviously, we don't have to, but what are the ways we can, I'm trying to avoid thinking about how potentially very scary it can get. And I'm thinking about the things that are good. And there's a lot more mutual aid happening. There's a lot more. I've gotten to know a lot more of my neighbors. There's been turnover since I moved in here. I'm here 3 years where I am now. And it's like, what are the things we can do? What are the things that we need to start doing to really, I was about to say protect ourselves, but really just feel that we're not alone. And honestly, I've been thinking about that. Like, what are the things we need to put in place?
Well, I think you started with connections in the community, right? Mutual aid, community care, the ways in which, like, knowing your neighbors.
Yes.
Much less helping your neighbors. You have to know who your neighbors are before you can engage in that, right? You have to have a relationship with your neighbors and your communities. Getting involved in local things.
Yes.
Go to school board meetings. It doesn't matter if you have kids or not. If you pay school taxes, you should be a voice for justice and liberation at school board meetings. Because let me tell you, like, the Planned Parenthood, aka Moms for Liberty, they're there in force.
Parenthood. Oh, jeez. Hang on. Planned Parenthood.
You've not heard them called that before? Yes.
No, that's awesome.
They're there. Accurate. And they're attacking our trans youth, they're attacking our queer youth, they're attacking communities of color. There was a story yesterday. I heard it on the radio on NPR yesterday. It was a story from Staten Island, New York, right? So that, I mean, Staten Island is a little Republican enclave in the like city of New York, which is a big blue blob. But they found a pile of books in the trash outside of an elementary school in Staten Island, and they were all books that were by or about or held in some positive light people of color, BIPOC people, and queer people, right? And so like they were like books from the Black History Month selections, like, and they had post-it notes on the front of them like portrays white people in a negative light, right? And so it was all these talking points of the reactionary right-wing folks who want to use like actual community relationships, actual like caring for people, actual understanding across differences as a weapon in our schools.
And the thing that's interesting about the Karen clanhood, I think that's what you call them, they are very much part of a tradition in the United States that does that. The Daughters of the Confederacy kicked that shit off with impacting school books all over this country. That's where the narrative, it was a states' rights issue, the Civil War, the War of Northern Aggression. I mean, this group of women made sure that they didn't want the South to be portrayed in a negative light.
Well, and for years and years and decades, the reason why the state of Texas buys the same books for all of their schools is so that people who want to control what gets taught in the entire country only need to control what gets taught in Texas.
That's right.
Right? Like this is not new news. Not
Texas
new news.
dictates the market and the content.
Right. Because they're buying the same books for every school in the second most populous state in the country. And there are strategies in place, and so we need to get involved locally to defeat those strategies. Like nationally, we're a shit show, and my national involvement is about harm reduction, and there are ways we can do that. And but when the question is who's going to kill the fewest people, that's a really shitty question to have to ask. So the energy has to go locally, where where the people are, where where the trans youth are being attacked, where non-binary kids are getting beaten up in schools, where Black students are not able to learn about their own history, where we can go on and on and on about what's happening in different localities around the nation and world. And so that's sort of where I start, right? I'm on the elementary school's parent leadership team at my kids' elementary school, because I want to have a relationship with the administrators and the teachers in that school, so that if they need support in providing an inclusive, just community in a school district that is 85% Black and brown kids, I can be there to support them, because I'll be one of the first people to hear about it. And I'm fucking planting a native plant garden. That's what we're doing right now. But I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there to hear about it, to support these educators.
Right.
That's awesome.
So that's what that would be my answer, Aisha. Where do we start? Because that's where the hope is, right? Like,
that is where the hope is. Yeah, we need to nurture ourselves and not forget what we're fighting for, because it can be, I know I can be daunted if I really sit for 10 minutes and just like ruminate on everything that's really pretty heinous. And then I turn to, well, here's what's not heinous. Here are the places that people are supporting each other and are coming together and are and I spent one of my neighbors has a karaoke machine, and so it's like, we're getting to know each other. So now I'm saying hi and naming more people I know their names. And even if you're in an apartment building or you're in a, you know just say hello and knock on people's doors and know people's names. Because then the more it's what is it? Brian Stevenson said it's about proximity, and it's also about, because the more we humanize each other in the most profound ways, the less we can be okay with the harm that happens systemically. And the thing that we do, what to your point, Michael, especially getting involved in schools, the rhetoric of national rhetoric, as we saw, and we've seen it in other places too, and most recently in Oklahoma, and sadly with Next Benedict, is the governor of Oklahoma used as a talking point the lives of children, the lives of youth, people's lives. And so, getting, I'm heartened by the national response of, we will not, we failed Next Benedict. We as a society, as a community. And so
yeah.
we have to keep trying. Yeah. Look for the
Yeah,
helpers.
Nicole, viewer Nicole Thibodeau writes, coffee and cookies are social justice work.
Yep. Yep.
That is real. That is real. Another thing is we as UUs, and maybe it's a UU thing, maybe it's a white person thing, maybe it's I don't know, but we have this thing where we don't like to do anything until we're sure we're going to do it right. Right?
Yeah.
You know, or we're sure we're like nobody wants to enter a battle that they're not sure they might win, right? And so I can't remember her name. There's a local, she's out of Philadelphia, host of a Sunday morning program on whatever it is out of Philadelphia. The one that's Terry Gross all the time.
WHYY?
HYY, yes, WHYY out of Philadelphia. All the Terry Gross all the time. But there's this absolutely amazing woman of color that I listen to on my way to church on Sunday mornings. And she had a guest on this past week. And one of the things that they talked about was sometimes you just got to do it scared.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just got to do it scared. And I was like, yes. So often we as Unitarian Universalists, we want to educate ourselves until we can ace the exam, then we'll sit for the quiz, right? That's not how justice work works. We have to do what we can when we can and get better on the run. Sometimes you got to do it scared. You got to do it scared. And
that is very much a white people thing, because Black and brown people know that if we try to not be scared, we never do anything, right? Because I didn't get naturalized till I was 19 years old, and I came to this country as a toddler and had my green card by the time I was 2. And one of the anxieties I had for a very, very, very long time, years, was where are my papers? Where are my papers? I never really, and even when Trump was elected, and at this point I was in my 40s, the first, the hate pumpkin, when he was elected in 2017, 16, whatever the fuck, the first, I'm like, okay, well, I'm a citizen, I'm married to a citizen, even though, because he was talking about, denaturalizing people who weren't born here. I was not born on this soil.
Like
and it was
wife?
a moment of, he doesn't, well, he'll make an exception for her, but like, yeah, I mean, people brought that up, but I mean, so I'm saying, like, the idea of perfectionism and justice work is rooted in the fear. I wonder if it's also a perception of control. It's an illusion of control and an illusion of safety. Because though, because it's an illusion of like, okay, well, it's not even, I mean, yes, it's partly about acing the test, but the test is staying safe. And those of us who either come from, I mean, Egypt's a dictatorship, even after Arab Spring, we had freedom for about 2 weeks. But we know how bad it can get. I know what it is to pretty, again, to be afraid in my 40s, which I hadn't felt since my teenage years, when I didn't have the papers and I didn't have documentation that I mean, I had a green card, but I wasn't a citizen yet. It was startling. I'm like, you really can't ever, in such a oppressive system, the safety is always an illusion. And I think that's the thing that folks who've been part of the dominant culture, I think, are just, especially.
Yeah, I mean, I don't actually remember when we stopped traveling with my daughter's birth certificate and the paperwork. I mean, we traveled with a notarized copy of the paperwork that finalized her adoption for years. All right, like the judge's order, and then her birth certificate paperclip to it, so that nobody could say this birth certificate is fake.
Yep.
Right, and like maybe it was when we got her a passport. Because we had to submit the birth certificate to get her a passport. But
right.
I mean, we were traveling recently, and now she's old enough that they can ask her, like, so who are these people that you're traveling with?
Right.
Like, and she's my kid might not want to answer questions like that at the moment.
Yeah.
Right? And like,
none of your damn business, that's who.
Right. And what would have happened if she said, who are you to ask me that question? What would have happened in that airport?
Yeah.
Even though we had a passport that had both my last name and my husband's last name on it, because we hyphenated her last name. Like what would have happened, and what recourse would we have had? And like, I don't want to think about that, to be quite honest. But I have to. I have to.
That's one of those things that scares me about contemplating a name change. All of my paperwork has my dead name on it. But like, that's a whole different realm of like going. Yeah, Nicole says trans kids also needs to carry documentation.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what? Like, when it comes to public demonstrations, I know that I can't be arrested because that would just be too complicated and dangerous.
Yeah.
And I worry if I ever get pulled over in traffic because the name on my license does not sound like anything that looks like me. Although in Pennsylvania, I'm allowed to have an X for my gender, which is helpful, but that's still a flag for a police officer who's having a bad day and doesn't want to hear about all this woke bullshit, So, yeah.
Yeah, I was recently in an online conversation about traveling as a non-binary person and X markers on official documentation. And like, someone just came out and said, like, I just encourage people to pick the binary gender marker that you do drag best as. And not go for that, because like, people in official positions understand binary gender markers.
Yeah.
And I can't do that without a birth certificate kind of thing.
Right.
For my license. Like I could choose X, but I couldn't choose M.
Mm,
More
Right.
accurate.
Which, yeah, exactly. Right. I could choose X, and then I've got this extremely feminine middle name. You know.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, that may be on my list of things to do this year. But that's just a stupid amount of work. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? Because patriarchy, when you get married, it's one fucking piece of paper. They
Yep.
do, it's all like easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Well, that's
Not a
because it's
big deal
also
at all.
about transfer of property.
Right.
Right.
Patriarchy and capitalism. Woohoo.
Yes. What a lovely soup that is, isn't it?
DC, you wanted to talk about Ireland. I love the Irish. They have been so out in force for
Sunday was St. Patrick's Day. Sunday was St. Patrick's Day, and it is the great.
the Palestinians.
The,
Did you see the president?
I did not.
He called out Biden, the president of Ireland.
We
was
lost
like,
your
hey.
we lost your audio, honey.
Okay, you talk.
Sorry. No, I was just saying, it is forever the chagrin of the Irish people that St. Patrick's Day was the day of the celebration of the myth that is the St. Patrick, but is always situated squarely in the middle of Lent is some perverse joke visited upon Ireland by the Vatican at some time years ago. Like, really? You're gonna put St. Patrick's Day in the middle of Lent? Really? That's just shitty.
It doesn't make for like great corned beef, huh?
Well, corned beef is fine, but if you're looking to indulge culturally, Ireland would like to indulge in whiskey or some sort of alcohol made from potatoes, and so yeah, right in the middle of St. Patrick. Although I know some American priests in Catholic parishes, in very Irish Catholic parishes, who will often sort of give informal dispensation for St. Patrick's Day during Lent as sort of a technical holiday.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, it's an Irish thing. So, Aisha, what you were saying before when your audio cut out was that the president of Ireland called out Biden at the White House, calling for a ceasefire and naming the Irish support for Palestine. Although, you know what? I saw in the paper today that is he the president or the prime minister of Ireland is stepping down.
Prime minister.
Yeah, Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar. Is that the guy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He's quitting his job. He's stepping down.
No.
He was Ireland's first openly gay and first biracial top government official. And I haven't had a chance to read the whole thing, but youngest ever leader, something he's stepping down for reasons that he said are both personal and political. I don't know what that means, but.
Well, while we're on the topic of St. Patrick's Day, and because I maligned the good people of Staten Island earlier in the show, I do want to say that this year, the first ever St. Patrick's Day parade on Staten Island that welcomed participation from LGBT Irish groups. And I know lots of people, especially the UU Church on Staten Island and the Interfaith Networks for Justice, very hard, worked very hard for many years to get the parade to open it up in that way. And I heard some interviews again on the radio with queer Irish folks who were marching in their parade for the first time.
That's awesome.
As who they were, and it was
Boston still hasn't come around.
It was a powerful moment of remembering that just that constant, persistent pressure eventually
Yeah.
wears down. The Colorado River made the Grand Canyon. It took 1 billion years, but
Yep. Yeah, I had a I had a professor friend in undergrad who was from Minnesota. A guy was named Terry Friedrichs, and he has marched sometimes by himself every year in the St. Patrick's Day parade in St. Paul with a sign that said Irish and gay. And I marched with him one year when I was living in Minnesota, and he always registers, he always lets other folks in the gay community know and that they're welcome to join him. And we joined him one time when I was living there, and he has marched, and sometimes he said there were enormous distances between the people in front of him and the people behind him and him. And here's this one gay man walking alone with a sign that nobody wants to be close to him. And then there have been other years where he's been joined by, gobs of people, and it's been a big thing. I know that the year that I was there, it would have been just after 2000, might have been 2002, 2003. And we marched. I had a giant pride flag that ended up in the back of my car after a celebration one time. I don't know whose it belongs to, but anyway, I've got this 8-foot pride flag. And so we marched with that. And there were people all along the parade route that were cheering for us. But it's not always easy to be queer and Irish. That is for sure, But yes, I'm sorry. That was totally. Whoop.
No, it was totally. Can you all hear me now? I feel bad that my sound is getting goofy. We were doing so well. I just want to name that AJ Van Tine said that when he got married, it was more than one piece of paper because AJ was taking his wife's name, not the other way around. Oh yeah, the patriarchy is very smart. They're like, we're only going to make it easy if you do it our way. Anything that is different is going to be more work. It's so insidious. So, and I also misspoke. It was the Irish Prime Minister, the person it sounds like who just stepped down. Which sucks because who was at the White House, who called for a ceasefire and the support of the Irish. I mean, I've been really it's been really beautiful to watch how much, especially I think Ireland, obviously South Africa, bringing the case to the ICJ, how many countries have now. We're 166 days, 66, 67, 167 days. It's been a lot of days in. This needs to. When is this going to end? When are we going to wake up and this be done?
And I read an article in the paper this morning that the United States is working with Egypt to get a resolution through the United Nations calling for a ceasefire.
Wow.
Which, okay, it's never too late if you're going to save people, right? Let's go with it's not actually too late because people are still dying. And did it take 30,000 and counting dead Palestinians?
Yeah, and how many 10,000 dead kids?
And 2 million people facing starvation.
Right.
I mean, it's the entire population of Gaza that's in imminent danger.
The Israelis that are stopping the blockade, that are blockading aid. There are something like 25,000 trucks on the Sinai Peninsula waiting to get into Gaza. And there have been civilians, Israelis, and the IDF, the IOF is not moving them. They are camped out and will not let those trucks in.
Right. And meanwhile, Lucretia, our broadcast producer, reminds us that Jared Kushner, son-in-law of the former president of the United States, whose name I will not utter, is calmly discussing moving people to the Negev Desert at Harvard and making plans to sell beachfront condos in Gaza.
Yep.
I mean, let's be really transparent here. I've seen the ads that they've placed in that people have placed in Israeli media.
Publications. Yeah. Wow.
They're planning on it.
It's gruesome. It's truly gruesome. I don't even know what other
it was-
fucking word to use.
And it was the plan all along.
Absolutely.
It was the plan all along.
Absolutely.
Well, and it's why the Likud party funded Hamas,
That's
right? I mean, like it's been the plan it's not just been the plan since October 7th. It's been the plan for
a long game.
A long time that these folks are so interested in one goal
state.
that they're willing to invest in the death of their own people.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
like,
perverse.
It's disgusting, right? It's absolutely nauseating.
Yeah.
Because they knew that would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And they needed that to happen for the outrage of the otherwise uncommitted Israeli people to then support further atrocities.
Right.
Via, revenge. They killed blah, blah, blah. Nuke them back to whatever,
And, and when I say, I just want to be clear that I'm talking about a particular political sect within Israel and not trying to paint Jewish people, especially, or even all Israelis, with the same brush, because I think it's really important. I think it's really important to repeat that when we're talking about this, because there are really good people who are fighting the fight for justice and fighting the fight for liberation and against the occupation and against the bombing, and who understand that what's going on does not comport with the values of Judaism.
No.
That's right. That's right. 100%.
So like I want to be like really transparent in here in our podcast talk show thing, whatever this. I'm almost post-verbal right now, but
yes, this program, our program, that's what it is. It's a program.
To that point, hopefully you'll let me know if my sound cuts out, but one of the things that's been also really, really heartening, I follow a lot of practicing Jewish people on TikTok who talk about the how Zionism has hurt. Criticizing Israel and Zionism is not the same. It's not anti-Semitic in and of itself, right? And they have been very clear. They don't want this war to be, this genocide to be done in their name. Did you hear what's been happening to the man who made Zone of Interest, who won the Oscar and said that he denounces that Judaism is being used as an excuse for this genocide? It's something like 400 people in the entertainment industry signed an open letter condemning him, the guy who made the movie The Zone of Interest.
Right.
Holy
the devout Jew. The devout Jew who made this movie and then won the award and used that time at the podium to say this is genocide and it's bullshit and it shouldn't be happening. He was called out as anti-Semitic by 400 and some people who think they've got an opinion that matters in Hollywood.
Well, Jewish people.
Michael's about to go ballistic. Michael's about to.
It's so here's a man who made a movie about the Holocaust and the banality of evil and a family living where on the other side of the wall, people were being decimated and annihilated, literally. And they were just having dinner and he was giving her things from the people who were being murdered. And he talked about dehumanization and denounced what's happening. And this, it's all I was so taken aback because I'm like, wow, there is such a commitment to annihilating Palestinians, because he's saying stop annihilating Palestinians. And then What is that? Where do we find? I don't know. I was so like, wow.
We have like 6 minutes left, and I want to like take a little step back, not a big step back, a little step back, just to say that all of these things are tied to one another. All of these things that we've been discussing are tied to one another. They are tied to the project of white supremacy in this world. They are tied to the project of capitalism in this world that seeks to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few and then give those few the power to make policies.
Right.
And that the best thing that we can do, yes, violent extractive capitalism, as my co-minister Aisha Hauser is want to say, and that like we as a people of faith need to name that, right? We need to name the values that are happening, and we need to say no to the dehumanization that is necessary for any of this bullshit, for any of this bullshit to actually take root. People have to believe the dehumanization. People have to believe the rhetoric that people migrating across the border to flee from violence are subhuman. Right? People have to believe that. People have to believe that trans women in a locker room are monsters, right? Like, I mean, it's bullshit. But it's dehumanization. People have to believe that Palestinians are terrorists, or 20 years ago that Afghans were terrorists.
That's right.
I mean, let's not absolve the United States of direct involvement in that sort of bullshit. We spun a narrative. This country spun a narrative that the entire nation of Afghanistan was complicit in 9/11 attacks so that we could kill 300,000 Afghan people, or however many hundreds of thousands of people it was that the United States wound up killing. So that people could make more money, right?
That's
so
right.
that
Dick Cheney
could
make more money.
His friends in the military-industrial complex could sell more bombs, right? So that the price of natural gas would go up. The dehumanization is necessary, and we cannot rest in our conviction to call that out as bullshit.
Yes. Preach.
We cannot, like, and I mean, we cannot rest. The collective we, the individuals we's have to rest, but we have to spell each other in this, because this is hundreds of years of dehumanizing bullshit, colonialism, nonsense, white supremacy, fuck shit, right? Like, it's not going to be solved in 3 weeks.
That's right.
That's right. But we can't stop either. We can't stop.
No.
The collective we cannot stop.
Right. No.
Right.
No. Very well said. Thank you for that sermon, Michael. I appreciate you.
We got to do it scared.
And we have to do it scared. There's no other way. There's no comfortable way to fix this.
No.
There just isn't. We're going to be uncomfortable, so let's lean on each other.
Yep. Like in a choir, right? In a chorus, where you have to hold a note for like 15 seconds, and ain't nobody can do that, but everybody takes a turn, and everybody breathes when they have to, and nobody can tell when nobody can tell, because it's a constant.
That's right.
That's what we got to do.
Amen.
Oh my goodness. I look forward to this hour every week, because inevitably I learn something, and I am so glad for it. And every week I come in knowing that I'm going to be uncomfortable, and knowing that I'm probably going to get something wrong, and knowing that this is the place where people will call me in instead of calling me out. And I learn something every freaking week. I love it.
Love you all.
Well, we hope that this potluck host special feast has been nourishing to you, or at least inspiring, or has given you the fuel to move us forward toward liberation in your own small ways. Thank you for being part of our community.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now, or visit clfuu.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The VUU.